Welcome to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best. Right now, the City of Rochester is bustling with new construction and infrastructure improvements. New businesses are opening in neighborhoods, old buildings are being renovated to fit today's needs, and jobs are being added along the way. It's exciting to see, and joining us today is Del Smith, City Commissioner of the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development. Thanks for joining us, Del.
I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Can you explain to us the functions of the Neighborhood and Business Development Office?
Yeah, so the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development, we have a team of committed professionals who focus day in and day out on enhancing the quality of life and creating economic opportunities for the residents and the businesses within the City of Rochester. Specifically, we have several divisions and bureaus within the department. For example, we have inspection and compliance. We have planning and zoning is within this particular department. We also cover real estate, housing, project development, business development, and administration and finance. And not to mention, some of our greatest assets includes our service centers that are around the city.
Okay. And what is your role as commissioner?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, my role is to ensure that I help facilitate the success of all those individuals in those different departments and bureaus that I mentioned. If I can remove barriers that keep the individuals in my team from being successful, that's really my primary job. But from the top down, I think part of my role is to make sure I understand the priorities of the mayor and understand how to translate those priorities into something that we can execute to actually impact positive change in the city.
Okay, and you're just about 6 months into this new role. Can you give us a little background about yourself, where you came from before?
Sure. So this is my first public service role. Prior to that, I considered myself to be a little bit of a hybrid of an academic and a business person. I was a professor at RIT for 7 years, an associate professor there. I taught within the business school, primarily entrepreneurship and leadership. And then in addition to that, I had a company as well, and that I was able to start and grow once I got here to Rochester.
Okay, and you've said before when you came to Rochester there was just something special about it related to the potential for opportunities here. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so I consider Atlanta and Houston to be my hometowns. I grew up in both, and they're very, very large cities, as you know. And the thing about living in one of those cities, you have opportunities around you, but you sometimes question if you can make a transformational or significant change that impacts a large aspect of the city because it's so big. But then you have these really, really small towns, right? Less than 100,000 people, and the opportunities clearly are limited in those spaces. So Rochester, just from a size standpoint, has a lot going for it in terms of just being, slightly over 200,000. It's kind of a big little city. In addition, we have this history of, the Kodak, the Boston Long, the Xerox, that despite their challenges they've had over the years, they've been able to help produce and attract a tremendous talent here in terms of workforce. And when you combine those things together, you minus the snow, I can't imagine any other better place to be other than Rochester. Okay,
and I understand there's some changes coming to the department. Can you explain what those are?
So the NBD, the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development, I would consider to be it was a good organization, it's a good department. And I think our goal is how do we go from good to great, to kind of borrow the Jim Collins line. And so some of the changes that we're doing is more of a realignment to try to move us from good to great. Specifically, what we identified of things that we need to work on include, we needed a strategic plan. We know we needed to leverage our neighborhood service centers more, great assets. We know we need to have a renewed focus on customer service because at the end of the day, we're here to serve the citizens of the City of Rochester. And we need to become a learning organization. That's something that we're going to develop over time. And that is, we need to figure out how can we do things better. So if something took us 4 months to complete, once it's done, how do we take a look at it and see if there's some ways that we can improve the process to bring that 4 months down to 2? And so that's part of what a learning organization does, and that's what we're instilling in neighborhood and business development.
Okay. Can you share with us some of the recent updates? Maybe start with downtown right now.
Wow. So if you look at downtown and you drive around downtown, you can't help but to see the progress that we're making in terms of development. Clearly, the Midtown area is something that's very exciting when we look at the tower at Midtown and the recent developments with the tower at Midtown. When we look at the fact that we see buildings going up, just a few weeks ago you saw a crane in the air, and that created a lot of excitement to see a crane in Rochester. And then you kind of go a little bit outside of that and you have great projects going on like College Town. And just to drive through there and to see the development going on in College Town is very, very exciting. Go a little bit further out, Citygate is a very, very exciting project as well, with the addition of Costco, who will soon be coming to the Citygate, and just the mix of residential, commercial, and retail development going on in all those areas. It's exciting to see.
How do you think these development projects will impact the future of Rochester?
Well, clearly, we're interested in economic opportunities, and from these projects, you'll see jobs. All of these projects have a significant number of jobs that they'll be adding, and that's the key for us. We want a city where there are individuals who are making livable wages and sustainable jobs that they can support their families with. These projects will add to our tax base, which is a good thing overall because it means increased services that we can provide to our residents. And overall, it's about quality of life. So when you can go downtown and you can have the options to live in a nice apartment or a nice loft, particularly as we look at mixing affordable housing in these units. And then you have the opportunity to visit some of these retail spaces and to, if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, to actually locate your business downtown. These are all about increasing the quality of life. So what we should see in a few years when all these projects really come online is that Rochester is a good place that people want to be, and there's even more people wanting to live within the city.
What would you say are some of the challenges related to your office, challenges that Rochester faces?
We can't ignore the fact that we have this tale of two cities. We've got an aspect of Rochester and a population that's doing very well, that's taking advantage of this economic recovery, people in good paying jobs. And then we also have the other city, which is high unemployment, some of the highest rates of poverty that exist in not only in our state but in our nation. Couple that with the challenges with our educational system and trying to address concerns about safety. Our challenge is how do we as a department address all of those things in a way that we lift the entire tide and that we just don't focus on specifically on development projects that are just in Center City. So that's part of our greatest challenge on how we can do that effectively. What
are some of the programs in place at NBD to help alleviate some of these challenges?
A great program, I think, that I'd like to advocate is our first-time home buyers assistance program. We have a program where if you're in the city and you're purchasing a home for the first time, we'll actually provide funds that will go to offset your closing costs, and that's a program that many people take advantage of. We talk about supporting businesses, and no matter where you're located, whether you're located in Center City or you're in Beechwood or you're in Charlotte, if you have a business, we would like to talk to you, particularly if your business is going to create jobs. And we have lots of programs out there that we can provide financial assistance to entrepreneurs and business owners to help them with their business.
What would your advice be to someone who's looking to open a new business? How would you get them to come to Rochester?
Oh, wow. So entrepreneurship is a passion of mine, so I'll try not to be too long-winded. I will go back to this thought process of you can kind of go out to our suburbs, and I don't want to say anything bad against our suburbs, but you can go there, you can park fairly easily within 10 or 15 feet, be at your door, and there's some advantages to this. But what we're hearing from a lot of business owners and people who own businesses and entrepreneurs is that they don't want to just come to work and sit in their desk in their office and then get in their car and drive home. They want an experience. They want to be able to look out their window and see development. They want to be able to look out the window and see people walking around to and from. They want to be able to leave and go out at lunchtime and particularly now go out and get some food at a food truck and experience that excitement that goes on. So there's a certain aspect of vibrancy of actually locating your business, whether it be small, just one person, or a 1,000 person shop, of coming to the city and enjoying what the city has to offer in terms of just adding to the quality of life that comes along with working.
Okay, and if that entrepreneur came into your office, what sort of services could they expect?
Well, so what we're trying to do within NBD is really trying to have greater support for entrepreneurs. We really believe that this is where the future is. And so in addition to some of the financial assistance we can provide, we're really focused on partnering with some of our other resource providers in our entrepreneurial ecosystem. So for example, RIT has their Center for Urban Entrepreneurship that they're developing and opening up. And we've been able to refer a lot of individuals that have come into that center for technical assistance or business assistance. The Urban League has a fantastic program to assist entrepreneurs. Pathstone has a great program that they've rolled out to provide additional loans and financial assistance to entrepreneurs and small business owners as well. So really tapping into our entrepreneurial ecosystem and being an active member of that entrepreneurial ecosystem, I think is the best way that we can provide value to our entrepreneurs with the resources that we have.
Okay. And finally, what other interesting development projects might be in the pipeline for Rochester?
So I think the one that comes to mind the most would be the Inner Loop project. People don't see any developments going on with the Inner Loop, but here within the next couple months they'll see construction started to actually close in the east portion of the Inner Loop. And once that portion is closed in, there'll be about 6 to 7 acres of developable land there that you'll see a lot of exciting commercial and retail and residential opportunities that are there. In addition to that, we've got a lot of things going on in the Bull's Head area, a lot of development going on in the Bull's Head area that will be starting here shortly. And so Market View Heights is another one that we've got great plans on the table for, and we'll see some development with that before too long.
Wonderful, exciting times in Rochester. Well, thank you very much for coming on today. Again, to learn more about the city's Department of Neighborhood and Business Development, you can call 428-6833. You can also visit the city's website, cityofrochester.gov/NBD.